how Bollywood is very different from Hollywood in terms of target audience?
In Bollywood, it has to be family related. You have someone like a Shah Rukh Khan. He doesn't only make a film saying, I need to make this money out. Till today, he has love for his craft. Doesn't matter what's happened to you in the morning, in your personal life, in the middle of the night, you could have lost your family, someone died, you got to come in and do a comedy scene. And you have to deliver.
So I'm leading the film, I'm producing the film, you want to come. If not, it's up to you.
That's when you get things of what started happening with like Me Too movements, with the whole nepotism coming out of the industry. And then it becomes a money game. That's how a lot of black money was funded out. So what a lot of people don't know, Bollywood is not even the biggest cinema in India. South India makes way more money with way bigger budgets than Bollywood does. They are way more open to new stories. They're way more open to pushing what creative boundaries look like. When you come to Bollywood, it's an actor-run industry.
Do you think that films are made to educate?
What you pay a university 4 years to study through, I can influence you in 2 hours in a cinema.
Hello and welcome to another podcast organized by Plan My Film. In this podcast, we will understand the components of filmmaking. We'll also understand the business structure around filmmaking, and let us take some learnings from our special guest Uzair Merchant, who's a renowned filmmaker. He shot various films and he's been part of some very leading movies of Hollywood that include Star Trek, Fast and Furious, and many more. He's been for a long time in regions of UAE, maybe Canada, Russia. I think you were in Russia also, I think. Yeah, India.
In and out. Yeah.
In and out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just would like to understand this journey of yours. And to welcome this, let us welcome Uzair. Uzair, welcome on the show.
Thank you.
And thank you so much, Uzair, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
After a long time that we met.
It has been a while. Yeah. Maybe 5 years?
100%. I think more than that.
Okay.
Uzair, let's go to the basic question. Like, how did you start this journey? Actually, who is Uzair Merchant? And where did he learn filmmaking and what really inspired him?
Okay, so we'll back up a little bit. It's a bit of a story. I always tell people the job chose me more than I chose it.
Okay.
My mom was pregnant with me and she was on a set before I was even born.
Okay.
True story. So it's something that was given to me more than I could pick. Along the way, I don't think any journey of any filmmaker in the world is the same journey. And to understand that, let's go to, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, right?
So you were the artistic sperm.
That was it. Exactly that. Yep, exactly that. Took both sides from my mom and dad, half and half. But I started out always as a traditional artist with like mixed medium and all of that. I was, actually I was telling your crew not too long ago, I was VR game testing in 2001 in Dubai, which a lot of people don't know.
Okay.
So 2001, I'm talking 20 years ago when no one knew what like VR was. There's actually a Gulf News article with my name on it and that a friend of mine found. And I was like, oh yeah, I actually forgot that, that was like that.
That was when you
ago.
had this company, Be Creative?
No, bro, this was when I was in high school. This was when I was like 10 years old in high school. And this is when VR had just come out, right? So I started out doing that and then ended up making music for a long time, almost 4 or 5 years. I used to DJ and make sound and work in audio production. And over time stumbled into, hey, you know what? I want to make film. But how do you pick the journey of becoming a filmmaker, right? It's kind of not easy. But it's also...
It looks easy from outside, but very complex when the artistic journey looks very easy from outside. Like you take a camera, you shoot it, and it looks like, okay, fine, it's presented to the world.
Yep.
But in the real sense,
It's not, bro, it's not. So I got in when I was 17 into the film business. I studied production design in the UK. To me, the most influential directors that I kind of looked up to, they all came from the art department. So James Cameron, Hitchcock, Ridley Scott, they were all either art directors, designers, who then became filmmakers. So if you hear James Cameron even now, he'll always say everything begins with the art department. It begins with the visuals. So for me...
So you pick up a small role and then you basically grow from there.
And each one has their own role. Some people have gone into camera department and walked in. Some people have gone into, costumes and walked out. I don't think there is a perfect journey of how to be a director or a filmmaker besides the idea that you are a filmmaker. I think it was Scorsese that said the only way you'll know that you're a director is go make your film and put your name on it. And then now you're a director.
Do you say that directors are filmmakers or producers are filmmakers? Because most of because how I look at it is the production houses or the studios or the producer who funds the film is a filmmaker, or is it a director? Director is he's a staff, right?
There's levels to this. Levels to this. Let's break it down.
Okay.
In the sense of a producer doesn't always bring in the money.
Yeah.
Right? That's an EP, an executive producer. I look at filmmaker as the director. The reason is it's his vision. It's the director's vision that's coming to life.
Okay.
Having said that, no amazing, great director has ever made a movie without a good producer.
Okay,
right?
I mean, of course.
So
it goes in hands and gloves.
It goes hands in gloves. You look at the Academy Awards, for example. You've got categories for Best Actor, Best Director, and then you have Best Film. And usually, Best Film, the producer will go on stage to get that award.
Correct, absolutely.
Right? And you understand that, yes, that person was very important to make that film, but you kind of come up with different hierarchies. So think of it this way. A very experienced producer can take an inexperienced director and help him get his vision out. Whereas a new director and a new producer, you're going to rely a lot on that director because it's that vision that's going to give you that final product, right?
Because
so
it's purely on the director of how he's able to depict that idea in front of the audience.
And how you get the best out of your actor. See, a lot of people won't even address that. Is on the day, the director is only worried about his actors. That's it's performance.
So let's go to the basic question. So what are the components of filmmaking? Like suppose you bring all these things together and that's how a film is made. Like what are they
You mean how many departments? Like
maybe departments.
Yeah, so you can have a whole bunch of things that are required.
Or how many
in a
people
film.
involved? You could say the primary department. We could say
you have something called an above the line and the below the line. And above the line is usually your head of departments that are required to make each department function. It really starts with the script. The script dictates what is required to make that film, right? If that film is, say, for example, action-based. Now, as much as your director is important and your producer is important, your action director, your stunt coordinator will make or break your film in that sense.
100%.
Okay, I'll give you an example. You've seen the film Extraction.
Yeah.
Okay, so Extraction, Sam Hargraves, I think, was the director. He was Captain America's stunt double in the Marvel films.
Yes.
So a lot of people don't know that the reason Extraction was such a strong action-based film is because that's what his core was. He was doing all of the, Captain Marvel stuff. And so when you go to make a film Extraction, you look at this guy and go, okay, can he do this job? Of course he can. He's done this a million times. Right? Okay, what does he need help with? That's now your producer being very important in that role. In that, now you're going to have other things involved, special effects.
So it's a coach it's merely like a coach and a captain.
And a lot more because there's no margin for error. So think of it this way. Some of the projects I've done, sometimes you have about 700 people involved in a crew. 700 people are doing work for one scene to make one moment come to life. That means you got to have your camera crew, your production design art department crew, which to me is very, very important because everything is built and designed in a world, which is what I do. My background is production design. And so in that world, once you design everything and you bring it to life, now it's living. How do you now make it living? You're going to have your makeup, your costume, your special effects, your post. So, VFX, which comes in way later,
correct,
right? But then now you're going to have your performance, which is your actors, your directors, your runners are equally important. But that's kind of the breakdown of what it is in a crew. It's you have all these departments and each one of them have a very important role at a certain time.
Do you think the producer gets involved in so many of these depth?
They have to.
They have to, yeah.
Because they run the money. So if you don't run that money correctly, it's going to get spent without it ever coming to life. And now that's money gone.
So it means the producer has to be an entrepreneur.
Has to.
I mean,
In a way, you have to.
It's not necessary that, he could just completely depict an idea based on if it is not commercially sellable.
Yes and no. So if you've watched a film, sometimes you'll see like 8 producers or 8 EPs on it. And that's kind of the job of a producer. Sometimes it's who knows who or what can they get. So I call you and say, hey, Peter, you listen, I'm shooting this thing and I need this actor. And you're like, hey, you know what? I can help you. I know someone who is this actor, or I know someone who's that. Okay. And then suddenly, before you know it, your name's on the movie for an EP because you've helped get something that's going to put value into the film. And now, yes, you've not brought in money, but you brought in value of what we're going to put on camera, right? So a producer's job is really
the technical know-how
to help the director's vision come to life. That's it. So if you had to break it down in the center, everything creative would fall under the director.
I got it now.
Everything non-creative and technical, logistics, budget, permits, legals, producer.
Fall under the production part.
And then you split these two, and it's a marriage. That's what it is. It's a marriage. And if they have a good marriage in, then you're going to get a good film out. But your producer has to also manage your director, because they might wake up and say tomorrow, hey, you know what? I had this idea and I want to rebuild this. We don't have the money for that.
100%.
Okay, so what are
many
we going
times
to
this is
do?
possible because the director could extend his idea from the creative sense, and the producer will say, we would have to halt certain things because we are getting financially burned. And it is not going to commercially succeed.
Well, and not only commercially succeed, that's when you rely on your crew, because that's when you bring every other department in and you rely on their skills to go, okay, we don't have the money to do this, but he wants to do this. How do we find a way to meet in between? And that's when everyone's creative juices are going, hey, you know what? We can do this. We can do that. We can do that. And the director now is helping the team. The team is helping him. And the producer's there kind of almost watching his orchestra, playing his orchestra out, going, all right, we got to get this symphony and everyone's got to play their part. So how do we get to that point? And
so it's so difficult, Uzair, for an individual filmmaker when compared to a studio, because studio will have the complete ecosystem. An individual filmmaker has to bring everything together to build a film.
But you know what? Individual filmmakers like that. It's a high. It's like a drug. And in a studio film, you have very little control unless you are the who's who, right? You have very little control. So you have to understand, when you go to a studio, you're giving up a lot of your creative abilities and creative rights, but you know that there's a system in place and you know it will happen. When you're doing it as an independent, you want to say your story in your way, in your vision. And this is hard to do.
For me, when I look at a studio, I'll always feel that, okay, if I take my idea and go to a studio, and if their marketing department doesn't approve it or is not able to gauge where's the target audience and whether this film is able to consume, the production will not start at all.
But tell me, when you go with that mindset, in what mindset are you going with that? As a producer or as a director?
Maybe just as a filmmaker. Maybe as a director come maybe someone who has written a movie. Maybe as a writer come director.
And to be honest, as a writer come director,
I go to a studio and I say, fine, sir, I would want this movie to be produced. It's an amazing idea. I'll get this idea into life. And I have this amazing access to these crews, or maybe it could go through you as well. But they will say that, okay, let us pass this through the marketing test. Because the marketing test will show me whether this is a profitable film or no. And only after that, it will be then sent to the production department. Till then, nothing.
So let me tell you 2 scenarios there, right? And this is the dark side of the business. If that were to happen and the studio was running your script and takes it to their marketing and they say, hey, you know what? We can sell this. You're going to come back and hear, hey, Peter, we love your script. Sign here. Walk away.
They'll buy it.
They're going to take it off you, right? And they're going to get someone who they know can deliver that and more to to really up
Or
that
someone who's
value.
on their contract.
Or someone who's on their contract. But as a filmmaker, as a creative, I don't care if someone tells me, hey, this will make money or not, because there is no way. And I'll prove it to you. Right now, today, you can see the Mona Lisa, right? You can see a Van Gogh painting. You can see one of these great art paintings. And you can be an amazing artist and go and copy it, right? You can go and redo it. Is it worth the same as what the original is? No. Did the original artist do it knowing it's going to be worth $400 million in 25 years? No. No artist ever goes in thinking or knowing that this is what the value is going to be. If you were to do that, I promise you, you have failed. You have failed. No artist should ever worry about this is what the value is on the other side. It's because that's not your job. Your job is to create.
But then how does he pick his target audience?
You pick your target audience. You do your research. Putting what the worth is not the point of creating art. Look at Quentin Tarantino. All right. Today, he can walk into a studio with a script.
Okay.
Right. But when he did his first film, Reservoir Dogs, who wanted to put money in? No one. It was Harvey Weinstein that put the money in. And that's what brought Miramax to life. And that was not a big budget film. He was considered an indie cult filmmaker that then ended up as a big studio director, right? But if someone were to go and tell him, hey, this is not, who's going to go watch this? Like, this is not going to make any money. Well, guess what? That's what did. Look at Squid Games. Look how much money it made, right? If someone were to go to them in the beginning and be like, hey, by the way, there's this Korean filmmaker and he's gone and made, he took about 10, 12 years to get that out.
So, I mean, look at how Hollywood is very different from Bollywood.
Totally.
In Bollywood, I mean, it's already in the minds of the audience that, okay, who's my lead actor? Someone, maybe one Punjabi guy, a tall guy, Gora Samunda, and he's going to lead the film. But in Hollywood, it's totally different.
Yep.
It's proper. It's purely character based.
Yep.
And I would like you to put some light on it.
So what a lot of people don't know is that Bollywood is not even the biggest cinema in India. There's 16 cinema industries within India. South India makes way more money with way bigger budgets than Bollywood does. Wow. And a lot of people don't even know that.
Yeah, I mean, of
way
course.
more. Bollywood's probably third on the list. Do you know the first ever Palme d'Or award, which was at Cannes, was won by an Indian filmmaker, Satyajit Ray, right? And you're talking about an industry that came out, which currently has the world's largest population, that only focuses on a very small part, what we call Bollywood, which is pure commercial. But you know how much of Bollywood takes South Indian films and remakes them again and again.
I think the trend is growing.
Right? And it's been happening for a long time.
It's been
The reason is, it's because in that industry, they figured out in South India, they are way more open to new stories. They're way more open to pushing what creative boundaries look like. Whereas when you come to Bollywood, here's the big difference for you. It's an actor-run industry.
Yeah, that is what I was coming to.
It's an actor-run industry. Every actor has their own production house. You go to Hollywood, a studio will get your big actor on board. Yes, actors will have their production house, but they're not running it all, correct. Right? And then they break it down to what is the common man going to relate to. So as long as there's a song, as long as there's some family drama, as long as we can, what they call masala, throw some of that in,
correct.
Then that's the formula. And sure, it's a film. Is it what you'd call art?
But I think it is again, it's fair because you look at it as a business idea as well.
Yep.
Because anyone who's going to put money in whether in any business, that is including films, I mean, would want a certain level of return.
Yep.
And it's fair enough that if someone is looking to build a studio around and trying to peg his popularity towards that studio, I don't think there's an issue on that. But What?
I personally do, by the way.
Yeah.
As a filmmaker, I personally think I have a big issue with it.
Okay.
It's because that's when you get things of what started happening with like Me Too movements, with the whole nepotism coming out of the industry and all of that, right?
So I'm leading the film. I'm producing the film. You want to come. If not, I mean, it's up to you.
And only the people that I know will get the job. Only the people that will work with me will get the job. And industry's closing up more and more and more and more.
Comes in.
And that's where it comes in. And then it becomes a money game. You want some truth too? Well, here's some truth. That's how a lot of black money was funded out.
Yeah,
and that's true because that's factual. A lot of films, 80% of movies that get made in the world don't actually get released.
Because they're artistically made, but they're not sellable. Maybe at times.
Or the point of making it was never to sell it. The point was just to make it. You can write off a lot of expenses and people find ways to do that. See, that's what I'm saying. This business is more than just creating film because you have to deal on a single day. I can deal with someone from space engineering, construction, automobile, jewelry, mining, the mafia, all of it can be one day for me. And so you're dealing with people in every industry at the highest level where a very small margin of error occurs. So it's really the intention of why something needs to be made. Comes down to that. If the film you're going in to say, hey, you know what? I don't care how it looks. I don't care anything about what it is. We need to put money in and we need to get money out.
That's what studios are all about. I think, in my opinion, studios are proper business houses.
Yeah.
They pick up an idea. They see where the capital is coming from there.
Yep.
Once the capital is deployed on the idea, they recruit a particular cast line and they start producing the movie or the production starts. And post-production, they start marketing the movie so that it's consumable to the audience.
Yep.
And they are so clear that this movie or this genre of movie is targeted to this set of audience.
Yep.
And this is the return that they are going to achieve
Absolutely.
out of this target. And it looks so profitable from an organization standpoint.
It is.
I mean...
it is. In that sense, it is. But look what's happening currently. If you look at this last year, how many original films have come out? Everything is either a remake.
Yeah.
You look at the next full year of films coming out, all the big ones. It's a part 2, a part 3, a remake of a remake, an old IP that's coming back to life. And Scorsese spoke about it too. I mean, I think one of the greatest things that happened last year was when Tom Cruise did Top Gun Maverick. And a lot of people went and told him, you saved cinema. He saved cinema because he went in, because he puts his own money in, right? And he went and made this film that, yes, it was a remake, but he did it in such an original way that it brought cinema back to life in that sense, right? It took that box office to a different level. And you can't have that cycle of remake, because understand, the generation is changing. You have to cater to newer stories. The world is not what it used to be.
So it's become so easy for the studios now to go and figure out in our browsing small filmmakers who've done artistically great work.
Yep.
Pick those stories.
Yep.
And rebrand them, or at least have a contract with them, rebrand them, market it well enough, and build a bigger business out of it.
Absolutely.
And reach it to a more targeted audience.
100%.
And so I don't know whether that artist or that filmmaker who was artistically motivated is compensated well enough. And the film houses have made much more, saying that this is an amazing story to tell, but I have brought it to life to a larger audience and globally.
Absolutely. And you're 100% right.
This is so unfair.
Exactly. Now tell me that as a filmmaker, when you've gone in with all that heart and you've made that film and you come out the other side and it doesn't reflect in your bank account, how do you have the motivation to go do it again and again and again? So the industry is such that either you last or you burn out. And that's why most people don't last in the business. It's because that happens. People would take an idea. Hey, you know what? We can commercially do this. And then it's done. And then what happens to that filmmaker? Nothing. So I think when you had the era of the Netflixes coming in and the Amazons coming in, it changed something in the beginning for the good because more content was required.
No, I'll come on that. But my point before that is that then how, as a filmmaker, you will able to differentiate artistic success from financial success?
I think it's balance.
Or is it that when a film is financially successful, my artistic success is validated?
Yes, to an instance, or it can be the opposite too. It can be two things. One, a film can have really great artistic credibility and someone says, hey, you know what? We can do this at a higher level. We see something and they'll pick it up. And there's one which is, hey, this just made money. So now this person as an artist, look at Wes Anderson. If you know Wes Anderson as a filmmaker, he's real. He's an artist. He paints with camera, right? But it took him a while to get out there as, you know what? A Wes Anderson film is going to be a painting. You're going to watch art flowing. And now it's a studio film. But it took him a while to get there. Sometimes it can be an award nomination that brings light to something. Sometimes it can be credibility within the industry.
No, that is, of course, the award or the award nomination itself is to some level of artistic success.
Some level.
Yeah, but again, the awards itself is also right now, there's a lot of, I don't know, where we say there are stories behind it.
Of course.
I mean, in fact, nominating an award.
100%. How many people that have won an Academy Award or an Oscar that you can remember in 10 years that are still working?
Yeah.
Right? Yes, they won an Academy Award, an Oscar, but it's like the Oscars, but are they getting their next job?
I think the South Indian movie RRR won the Oscars.
Yeah.
I think a couple of years back.
Yep, they did. I think there was a couple of awards that they won. And again, that goes to show you.
That goes to show that, how the real stories are coming from the South.
You get what I mean? And that was artistic. And there was also studio in the back.
Yeah.
It was also a very big budget. But they got something right. They were being true to themselves. They were not trying to be a South Indian version of a Batman or a Superman.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? They were doing something from a core standpoint, which is what I told you in the beginning. Why are they going to make this? Hey, we want to tell our story. Awesome. What's the best version of this story we can tell? How far can we take this? How far can we push the boundary?
They're not imitating anyone.
No. It's because in India, they're setting the standards.
Correct.
They're setting the standards. Now you're going to get a Bollywood film that's going to go do exactly, hey, you know what RRR did? Yeah, we got to go do something like that. Because look what they did, right? When they're already on the other side going, hey, we're already doing the next one because we're already way ahead of this game.
Wow.
Right? It's really about artists stepping into a safe zone with a producer. And that producer helps that art come to life rather than, hey, I'm going to eat up all the money that I can possible. That's the big difference. That's the way we get art, is you need to find every creative person that has someone backing them.
It takes certain level of reputation to reach to that position?
100%.
I mean,
100%. 100%. That's, the example that you gave. If you walked in with your script, right? Someone's going to be like, okay, but Peter, why should I back you up?
Yeah.
Why? Why would I give you the money to do it?
You're just a fresh writer.
Or yeah, exactly. You're just a fresh writer. You're fresh this. But if you know how good your story is, you'd probably say, hey, you know what? Take my script. Promise me a job on the film. Promise me my next job.
Wow. This is like a trade.
Yeah. Go and make it. Get it out there. Because someone's going to be like, hey, who wrote that story?
But there's no assurance that the way the story was in my mind will be the same way depicted on the screen.
It's not meant to be.
It's not meant to be because it was sold and traded off.
No, because that's not how art's made. Okay, Hitchcock had a saying, a filmmaker writes a different film, shoots a different film, edits a different film, and the audience watches a completely different film.
What are you saying?
Fact. This is fact. It's because in between, life happens. I can tell you 20 examples that I've been on. You know what? We've got a script in and we've got this location and we want to shoot this and it's all perfect. Hey, you know what? The writer's like, hey, this is how I want to do it. The director comes and goes, oh, but I read this completely differently. Okay, they're going to merge an idea. The producer comes and goes, guys, that location, we lost it. We're shooting tomorrow. But the writer's like, hey, but that was my vision. It had to be here. And the director's like, well, we came up to an understanding and I had this other stuff happening in here. We lost the location. So you have two options. Tomorrow morning, roll camera or don't roll camera. Okay, so where are we going to go? We're going to go somewhere completely different. But it doesn't even look like that place. But so be it. That's the job of the director.
So the original idea keeps getting adulterated.
100%. Now you filmed it. You shot it. The editor is sitting, cutting the film, and he goes, hey, you know what? This part doesn't look nice here, even though it was scripted that way. I'm going to change it. I'm going to cut it differently. Now the writer's watching his own film and he goes, I didn't write this like this. And the director's like, but I didn't shoot this scene for that. But the producer is okay to cut.
Because it's commercially viable for him.
Or it just made it look better. Or that was the best that they could do. On the day, this is the best that you can do with what you have. And you want to get that out.
I agree.
Yeah.
But let's go back to Bollywood. I mean, from where at least I'm part of India, and I see an average film today is produced for at least 100 to 150 crore. A Bollywood film, maybe say about $15 to $20 million. But if you see the whole budget, 60% of the budget is allocated towards the lead cast. And only 40% is spent on production and post-production. So you can see, as a filmmaker, you see the amount of risk of betting on the lead actor. That your commercially success or failure purely depends on his skills to attract and pull people to consume your films, at least from the initial stage.
Yep.
Of course, once it's launched on the cinema, once it's on the screen, then the story will speak for itself.
Yep.
But at least at the initial stage, how do you look at that? Very different.
Take a Bollywood film that you just gave an example of. Take a South Indian film. Same 100 crores. They don't rely completely on that actor.
Yeah.
They don't rely on that actor. They're like, we're going to go make a brilliant film. We're going to go make a brilliant film.
Yeah.
And we're going to put this brilliant film with a couple of people and we're going to create a star out of this film.
Wow.
You're going to get the next generation of stars coming out of this film. That doesn't need to be related to one of the big families. That's someone's son, that's someone's kid.
And that's what is justice to the filmmaking.
With that, by the way.
That's what is justice to the filmmaking.
Absolutely. And that's the greatest part about it. And don't get me wrong, I have no problem with, hey, someone's kid is an actor, so sure. Hey, if you were able to jump the gun and save 20 years and your father was an actor or your family comes from the business, kudos to you. Amazing. That was what life gave you. Amazing. Sure. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to just take it for granted rather than push that button out of how far can I take this? Right? You have someone like a Shah Rukh Khan.
Yeah.
He is who he is because of what he did.
Of course. I mean, the hunger was very different.
The hunger was different. The
same hunger will not be with Aryan Khan.
It doesn't exist because he wanted to do what he did because he has love for his craft.
Yeah.
Till today, he has love for his craft. He doesn't only make a film saying, I need to make this money out. It makes it out because people want to go see him because he's worked his way to getting to that point.
And because he's worked for a long time, he somehow knows to read his audience.
Of course. And he's brilliant at it because there's some things that he's good at, which he knows, and he plays to them, which is awesome, which is great. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the problem comes, as you just mentioned, is when you take majority of that budget and you don't let the other departments shine. Like production design in India is just growing out. Like RRR had great design.
The way you said it, if I take this 150,000 and give it to a South, maybe he will see whether most of the money is spent on art or building the film rather than on the cast.
Yeah.
And maybe if possible, he could create 3 movies out of 150 crore.
Yep.
Rather than spending 150 on one movie.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you this though, a lot of great actors, they die for good roles. Not that's only commercial. No, they want to put their art on screen. They want a character that they can dig their teeth in. They want to go into a character's life that's like, hey, you know what? This character, I can dig out of him. I can bring emotion out of him. I can go and live with this character and bring something to life.
But all this is happening because there's too much noise around the box office collection.
Of course. Have you seen the film Lincoln? It's about Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, Daniel Day-Lewis, I think that's the actor. When he was doing that film, he was living and breathing like Abraham Lincoln for 6 months. His own family had to call him Mr. President. He was dressed up like Abraham Lincoln. He was in character.
I'd seen this movie, I think, Invictus by Daniel Washington.
Yeah.
It was on
Denzel,
on Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
I mean, he was also breathing the same character.
Absolutely. Will Smith did that for Ali, for Muhammad Ali. For Joker, you had Heath Ledger that, eventually it took his life. But he went so deep into that character of who he was and what he was trying to bring out of it. And you can see these characters, they want to dig in. And certain things come out of these characters that become iconic. You've seen the film Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, I've seen
Wolf of Wall Street,
yes.
right? So there's a scene where he goes, right? DiCaprio and Matthew McConaughey, right?
Yeah.
And that part is a true story. That part was not scripted. Matthew McConaughey used to do that for himself to just calm him nerves since he was younger, since his early days. And on that day, it was a big scene and there was this big monologue.
I think Jordan Belfort was like that only. I think he used to create. I mean, the original story is written on Jordan Belfort.
Him. But that scene was an impromptu scene.
Okay.
It was an impromptu scene that he just did on his own because it's something he did for himself. It made it to the trailer. It became one of the most iconic things in the film, right? You tell anyone, hey, and then, hey, Wolf of Wall Street, right? Straight away. This was him bringing his bit into character. Look at Shah Rukh Khan. You go and you stretch your arms out and everyone's like, this is Shah Rukh Khan, right? They know. It's because there's something that he brought into that character that stayed back. Everyone can't do that.
100%, I mean.
Actors are vulnerable and they make the big bucks because I have a lot of respect for what they do. It's not easy to put your emotions on your sleeve and have it change out. Remember, an actor is in makeup for 12 hours through an entire day. Doesn't matter what's happened to you in the morning, in your personal life, in the middle of the night. You could have lost your family. Someone died. You got to come in and do a comedy scene. And you have to deliver.
This is really tough.
It's hard. And then you got to step out and step into an audience where all they want to do is pray into your personal life. Then you have to be completely the celebrity politeness of, hey, this is who I am. So you still have to be completely human, but they don't get to be fully human.
Yeah, I mean...
People forget that. They're still human.
They are carrying multiple personalities.
Absolutely. How many people can do that? I don't want to do that. Like, I've been asked it before and I'm like, nope, thank you. Like there's one version of me and I don't want that because it takes a mental toll. It takes a certain kind of human to do that. So yes, they make
and maybe
the big
in that
bucks.
process, they lose their original personality.
Of course. And we're all evolving, but evolving on a daily basis to be somebody else, man, this is not easy. It's not easy. People forget. They're like, oh yeah, why this actor behave like this? You don't know what that person's gone through in the last 24 hours. You can't be an Olympian without being on a track, right? You got to a fighter got to be in the ring, right? That's the only way. There is no other way. And so if people run behind, hey, you know what? I need to go get 2 master degrees of how to make money. There's 15-year-olds making more money at home using crypto and using Roblox than someone having a master's degree nowadays. So what can I say? Hey, you don't need to do that. Go follow the 15-year-old. He's making more money than you with a master's degree, right? It's your craft. You got to fall in love with it.
How Bollywood is very different from Hollywood in terms of target audience, shooting techniques, and maybe in terms of a lead cast. How it's very different from these...
Bollywood, in terms of production, way quicker.
Also in terms of target audience, I mean, what is a safe bet in terms of a particular genre? I mean, what is a safe bet? Like a family movie?
A family movie. So think of it this way. In Hollywood now, there is a safe bet genre, which is if you can have a multicast, an Asian, an African-American, a Caucasian, a brown person.
Like a Fast and Furious.
Yeah, you kind of throw them all together and, that's going to give you something out of it. In
They'll track
Bollywood,
all their-
it's the complete opposite. In Bollywood, it has to be family related. It's because, keep in mind, we have the largest population in the world.
Yeah, that's what that's and how to appeal to all of them.
And the majority of that population is uneducated till today. So you're still dealing with an audience that understands cinema, but there's limitations to that.
And who's very high on emotions.
Extremely high on emotions. See, cinema through time is being used as a form of escapism.
Correct.
People went or go to the movies to experience something for 2 hours that takes them into another world that you can have the power to emotionally highlight, change your entire heart rate, everything, and come out in 2 hours and influence you, right? Bollywood, post-World War, went through that phase where I say, hey, you know what? There's a family thing happening here. So the dancing and the singing was a way of, just like the musicals in Hollywood, a way of escapism. Look at what's happening now.
Yeah, I mean, each movie had about 7 music album.
Right. And look at what's happening now. You're coming to, for example, there was a film recently called Animal.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of backlash.
Yeah.
But that movie's genre and what it's talking about,
They did well on the box office.
correct. But if you would have put it on paper, I would have probably been like, hey, are you sure this is going to do well on you get what I mean? It's because it shows an Indian macho man in a way that you don't want to see an Indian macho man today. It's everything that's going wrong with the country. You're having rape cases through an entire country where you're showing violence on one side is glamorized.
But don't you think that the films also have evolved? Like it started with
course.
single screen, then it went to multiplex, and
Of
now
course.
OTT.
Of course.
I mean, the single screen was only to present the cinema. The multiplex was fine. We present the cinema, we sell you popcorns, we sell you beverages. And now it came to OTT. Okay, you buy it cheap, sir. You use your own AC, you eat your own popcorn and watch at home.
Yep.
And see the evolution. I mean, what we are reading, that this country is very emotionally active, I think is slowly getting inactive. And they're picking up a lot of these Hollywood trends.
Yep.
What I'm saying is that as the film has evolved, the
Yep.
taste is also evolving.
100%. It's because we are fully connected. Look at Sacred Games, right? As an example. Great star cast. Great direction. The design was brilliant. The way it was written was brilliant. But it was so grounded. The story was so grounded. You could tell when you watched it, I was like, yeah, this probably happens. But also it's dealing with every genre of the Indian society. In Sacred Games, you have a minister, you have a cop, you have the guy on the floor.
It doesn't show any fantasy world. It just shows the hard streets.
Right. And that's because your audience nowadays is also getting smarter because we're all connected. We're not living, look at it, we're living the age of, we're fully connected.
Yeah.
Something that becomes a trend in America, the next morning has become a trend in Hong Kong and in Mumbai the next day.
Yeah.
We're so connected, so you can't hide it. So the audience is like, hey, you know what? Yeah, we like the little escapism, but give us some truth. Give us some real stuff. But also at the same time, what are you doing to elevate that audience? What are you doing to elevate that audience? Very few directors are doing something to elevate that audience. And I think as filmmakers, it is our job and duty to do that. To tell.
Do you believe that?
100%. You have the power.
Do you think that films are made to educate? I mean,
Why won't they? I'm saying flip the question. Why can't you create art at the same time and educate? Because whether you know it or you don't, you are.
Okay, but I mean, there are schools to educate. I mean, why do we need films to educate? I mean,
If schools could educate, here's the thing. I love that you said that. If schools could educate, we wouldn't need films.
Okay.
The beauty of why artists are so influential is because what you pay a university 4 years to study through, I can influence you in 2 hours in a cinema.
Filmmaking in UAE is much more easier in terms of getting license. I mean, getting required permits to shoot, and overall able to get ideal locations to present a film.
From what it was when I started out in the industry,
Yeah.
way easier. Back in the day, it was not easy at all. I think it's way more accessible. But there's a difference of when you want to shoot between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Someone might come in for a rebate program, may choose Abu Dhabi. Someone that
No, I'm
may
talking
come
about
in
UAE
for-
as a whole.
UAE as a whole, someone that comes in for like the visuals may choose Dubai because I want a skyline of certain sort.
Yeah.
It's again depending on what genre they're coming for. As an industry, I think it's still a baby. We're still a baby in this industry.
I'm just looking at from the ease of shooting a film.
It's not hard at all.
Yeah, that's what.
If you're talking how to get the logistics sorted out, it's not hard.
Because if you take it to, India, the central board itself is so complicated that if you don't belong to a particular group of people, it's very difficult for you to clear the certifications, and get the clear check to, move with the film.
Yeah. And that's because, full films don't shoot here. The only full film that ever shot here was a film called Misfits, which I designed. But otherwise, films come in and they'll shoot a small part, they'll shoot a song, they'll shoot a sequence, they'll come in for 2 or 3 months for certain bits. So when you're looking at it from that perspective, it's not hard because you got to present your script to the government. And as long as it gets approved of, there's certain things that you're allowed to do or not allowed to do. And then logistically, it's not hard to set up.
No, also because I was also looking in terms of ease of shooting is because there's an initiative from the government on the golden visa for a lot of artists.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what I was thinking, that don't you think it's very easy for them to come here now and obtain the golden visa scheme that's there, and then from there on take on the whatever the jobs they want.
To be honest, even before the golden visa too, the government always made a way to bring people in. So even if there was no golden visa before, if someone wanted to come, as long as they went through the right channels, they would always help them out. It's the idea of the cost. It's not cheap to shoot.
Yeah.
Here, it's not. So that becomes a bit hard because it is expensive with permits to lock certain places down and lock...
Even the resources maybe.
Resources too, right? And so even crew. Crew is not the cheapest because there is a pretty good standard of crew here, but also it's a very tiny industry. So when stuff does come, people need to eat, right? It's not like in India. It's not like Bollywood where there's like 25 films. So if not this film, I can go to the next film. In Vancouver, at some point in 2018 when I was there, when I moved there was about 65 shows shooting. 65 shows. There's bunch of shows. So there's a full industry that's running based off that. So there's a system. Whereas here, it's like there's one odd show that comes in, a small part comes in here and there. So it's, like I said, it's still a baby of an industry that's growing out. And I think it's about growing the local talent that will really give us an industry. And it's growing little by little. There's a lot of Emirati regional talent coming out.
Yeah?
Oh yeah, there is. There's a ton of stuff.
Okay.
Especially after Saudi opened up their markets and they've been pushing so much on the film front. It's kind of creating this new era of filmmakers, to go back and forth. So
are these films on Netflix? Or
maybe a couple,
or how do you really watch the local Arab films? I have
in cinemas or Netflix, but they'll release out in cinemas and stuff like that too. Yeah, regional films, which is kind of nice too because it's for their audience and
they're released in English.
No, in Arabic, but they're subtitled.
With subtitles.
Yeah, with subtitles. Fine. Yeah. But like I said, it's growing in industry is very important, which currently I see it's taking time,
Because almost everyone is in somewhat a filmmaker. Because he takes his camera, his mobile and
100%.
tries shoots and
100%.
he's representing himself, telling a story about himself and then trying to consume someone.
Yeah. There's just levels to this game.
You got my point.
There's just levels to the game.
What would be your advice for someone who wants to, someone who's a young, budding filmmaker and would want to enter this industry? What would be your advice? How does he start? It's best for him to start to pick up one department and then move as an intern, or how do you?
So, I teach as well. I teach production design, right? So,
wow. Yeah.
Yes, I teach production design for the last 5-6 years. I teach with New York Film Academy, where I studied in New York.
Yeah.
And we've done courses in Saudi, Doha, Africa. In fact, one of your crew guys, we were talking earlier as well. And this is something that I've gone around the world trying to help younger artists. So you have your academy here? We do plug-in courses. Okay. So yeah, we'll plug into different academies. Okay. The course I teach is called the Art of Visual Storytelling.
Okay.
It's literally breaking down how and why we make film. And the main reason I started doing that was to answer what you just said, is every filmmaker has a different journey and a different reason of why we do what we do. But you have to be true to yourself. This is the most important thing. This is the absolute fundamental number one core. Be true. Don't lie to yourself because it will show and it won't go further. And you'll say, hey, I tried. I made so many videos. You lied to yourself about why you're doing what you're doing. If you're doing it to become famous, quit the business right now. Don't do it. Go find something else. You can find 20 other ways to become famous. You have to understand why and what it takes. And then you will be able to answer the next question, which is, okay, which department do I go into? Because first, when you're honest with yourself, hey, what do I really like and what am I willing to put in? For someone, it might be camera. For someone, it might be, hey, costume. For someone, it might be design. For someone, it might say, you know what? I don't have any of those skills. Okay, but you can still join production. You can still help become a location manager. You can still join a different area in accounting if you've got an accounting background. A lot of great producers have come up the accounts department. Right? So if you've got an accounting degree and you still want to become, hey, you know what? I want to produce a film. You can work up within the accounts department and understand how the books are run and how money has gone in. Yeah. And then say, hey, you know what? You can go to a next director and say, hey, you know, I can help you run your budget.
Correct.
And now you just became a producer, right?
You could actually, then eventually open up your own production house.
100%. But you got to be true to yourself. There is a path that is not easy and you're only as good as your last job. So you can have 20 years in the business.
Yeah.
But what have you just done?
Yeah.
You don't have someone like a DiCaprio and Tom Hanks. Why do they still do what they do? They don't need to, right?
Yeah, of course, they don't need to.
Why does Amitabh Bachchan wake up every morning and still do what he does?
At 4 a.m. in the morning.
And at his age, when he's done it all, there's a certain love for his craft. And he doesn't lie about that. There's a love for his craft.
I mean,
you have to be true to it.
Yeah, someone has just told me that, to get that vocal of Amitabh Bachchan, he gets up at morning 4 and goes to the dubbing studio. Because that's when his voice is a little heavy. And then he gets the right amount of, vocal. And I think to sum it up, like the way you said, that if you're not passionate and you don't know what you're really doing, then it's difficult for you to enter this industry just from a financial forefront.
Absolutely.
Because it's a blend of art and finance.
100%.
It cannot be just finance.
100%.
If you don't know artistically where exactly you're placed, then the journey becomes even merely frustrating for you.
Yeah, and it's what you want to do with it. You know Robert Downey Jr. You know his story of his life, right?
Yeah.
The man was an addict by the time he was a teenager. Went in and out of rehab multiple times. Look where he is today. He's literally a testament of even someone who was an addict as a kid, been into rehab, gone into jail, can come out as one of the biggest movie stars of all time. He's literally one of the biggest movie stars of all time.
Wow.
Love for his craft. It takes more than just, hey, I like it. Or, oh, I want to make some money. That's not going to do it in this business.
So that's your advice to the budding entrepreneurs.
Be honest with yourself.
Be honest with yourself.
Absolutely.
And love your craft.
Love your craft and work on it.
First, you love your craft, we'll figure out a way of how to make it commercially success. But we'll figure out that later on. But first, love your craft. Be true to yourself.
Only you know what you created and what you can do with it. And then suddenly, someone's going to be like, hey, you see what that guy did? I can go do that because that's sold. You just created a whole new way of how something's done.
I just took up now, actually, how the financial balance worked, actually,
Yeah.
From the artistic balance. I mean, that you need to stick to the craft, wait for some time.
Yeah.
And eventually you'll be able to start bearing fruits.
Absolutely. Your first couple of jobs, you may have to eat back on your artistic because you got to pay bills. Do it.
That's where I was coming.
Because you're still in the business. Do it because you're still in the business, or you're going to have a side job. See, you keep a side job and you stick to just your art. Now you don't care because you're still paying bills.
Yeah.
But if you make the business your life.
That's what was my major concern there.
Right. And if you make the major business your life, whereas in my case, my personal case was for me to become a director and write, which I started focusing on the last 3-4 years of really writing and directing only now. I worked through the art department for 15 years. My side hustle was in the business. My side hustle was I've worked every department in film besides makeup and costume. I've worked every department. And
so it's best rather than moving in the initial stage as an entrepreneur, I think it's always best to go and work with a production house. And that's where you can say 100% you could justify your art. Absolutely. At the same time, they'll pay you. So your bills are also taken care.
And the most important thing is you learn problem solving skills. This is the most important thing. 85% of my entire life, I have been hired for that. Problem solving skills. It's because time, money, we must deliver. Okay, let's make it happen. If you can't do that, no one wants you. No one wants a Picasso 2 days late. We wanted it 2 days back.
Thank you very much, Uzair.
Thank you for having me.
It was lovely meeting you.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of technical know-hows that you gave. There's a lot of the evolvement of the film.
Yeah.
I mean, thank you so much once again.
Thanks for having me.
Uzair. And we'll catch up again.
Congratulations on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.